I'm William Cooper, and you're listening once again to the hour of the time. This is the only hour that ever was or ever will be. This is, ladies and gentlemen, the most important hour in your entire life. For during this hour, you will decide your future, and thus our collective futures. I have been, for many years, more than I care to even remember, attempting to wake the sheeple, empower the people, and hopefully preserve liberty for our children, and as our forefathers put it, our posterity. When I began, I had a great faith in the American people. I had a wonderful feeling that if someone just turned their head away from the fantasy of their everyday life and the erroneous things that they had been taught and just gave them a glimpse of the truth, they would latch onto it like a thirsty man at a well who had just crossed the desert. I was very polite in those days, very nice, very forgiving, very understanding, very helpful to anyone and everyone that came along. And everybody thought I was a great fellow. Wonderful guy, that Cooper. Yep, just ask him for it. He'll give you the shirt off his back. Any information that he's got, he'll give it to you. Oh, and don't worry. If you want him to come and talk, he'll come and talk for nothing. And I did. For several years, in fact. Until one day, my wife and I and our newborn daughter found ourselves standing in a ditch with nothing. You see, the sheeple of this world had sucked us dry, hadn't done any good whatsoever. None of them were active in helping find the truth. No, they would take what bits of information I gave them, bend them to fit their agenda, and take off in another fantasy, flapping their wings over the horizon. And if it had not been for some good people whom we had never met, never seen, and to this day I do not know who they are, and I have no idea how they knew that we needed help, these little envelopes arrived in the mail. With no return address, no signatures, no message, no nothing. It's $5 or $10, $50, $20. And we were able to get back on our feet. You see, somebody would call me and say, Bill, we want you to come and talk to our group. And I would think, I'll go. And I'll talk to the group, and they'll help me defer expenses, and they'll donate a little something to help us keep going. Well, I would get there, and I would speak, and they would all applaud and stand and say what a wonderful person Bill Cooper is. No donations, no help with the travel expenses, no help to put food on the table. And so one day I said, no more. This is what I do. These people who I am exposing have made it impossible for me to work for anyone else. This is what I do, and I have a right in a free country to charge for my work. So I did, and still do. And then at one memorable gathering, I was speaking, and when it came time for question and answers, one person raised his hand, and I called upon him, and he stood up and told me that the information that I had just spent several hours imparting to these people was no good, of no consequence whatsoever, and that I was discredited because he had to pay to get in to hear what I had to say. And that was another milestone. My faith in the American people began to ebb. And it ebbed even further when one day in San Diego, I was giving a talk to people and trying to wake them up. And about an hour into the program, a woman stood up and began screaming at me, yelling and raving, and froth was coming out of her mouth. And she said that what was happening to us is all my fault. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. You should have told us this years ago. And she began to curse at me. And then I would try to get on the computer nets. I still am, by the way, and have been off and on over the years. But I would get on, and it would begin with something innocent. I'll give you the most recent example on the internet. And usually after several of these attacks, I would just leave and would not come back, or I would use another name and just stay on the net and never make any comments. Because I've discovered that people do not like the truth. They don't want to hear the truth, especially if it pings upon one of their personal agendas, or if they belong to one of the religions or secret societies or organizations that's involved in this, and they don't want to confront it. The most recent example was there were posts about Pat Buchanan running for president on the internet. And I merely left a simple little statement stating that Pat Buchanan belonged to the Knights of Malta, and as a member of the Knights of Malta, has taken an oath of absolute obedience to the order and to the Pope. I also made the statement that the Knights of Malta is recognized by all countries in the world as an independent sovereign nation, not just an organization or a secret order, but a nation. As a member of the Knights of Malta, I said, Pat Buchanan carries a diplomatic passport for this nation of the Knights of Malta. The Knights of Malta are also well known, it's no secret, the militia of the Pope. They have two sworn allegiances, and nothing else can go over or supersede these allegiances. The first is absolute and total obedience to the order, and the second is absolute and total obedience to the Pope. When the Vatican feels that the Pope is in some special danger, or that the Vatican itself is in some special danger, the Swiss mercenary guard that is normally employed to guard the Pope and the Vatican is dismissed, and the Knights of Malta take position as the guards of the Pope and the Vatican. As a member of the Knights of Malta, Pat Buchanan could be called upon to perform this function. So I merely posed a question. Shouldn't the President of the United States have allegiance only to the United States of America and to God, and to no other country, no other person, no other organization, and no other nation? Well, I made this post very nicely, in very nice language. I made my point very well and was viciously attacked from all sides. Now, it's noteworthy that every single person who attacked me was a Freemason or a member of the Mormon Church. I had said nothing about religion, only oaths. Only oaths. But this time, I'm going to stay there. And I don't care what happens, come hell or high water, I'm going to stay there, and I'm going to continue to rub it in their nose. And this time, I'm not going to leave the net, like I have been used to doing. I have backed up every post I've made with facts. When I didn't give facts, I gave sources or references, and when I didn't do that, I told people it is very easy to find the information. Please go do it. I even challenged these Freemasons who said that there's nothing wrong with taking an oath to the Freemasonic Lodge, and it would not hinder their ability to function as President of the United States. I challenged them to quote those oaths in public on that list on the net, and they refused. They refused because they're lying. They also take an oath that says rather than reveal the truth, they must remain silent or lie. One of the oaths, which I have in my possession, states that these people have to give shelter and aid to any brother Freemason, no matter what they have done or what trouble they are in, unless and except they have committed murder or treason. Anything else, they have to protect them. Also, there's an oath that says they have to refrain, and I'm paraphrasing it, refrain from molesting each other's daughters and wives. All other daughters and wives are fair game. I have copies of these oaths. This is not some imaginatory fantasy that I'm flighting off in, and so do many other researchers. And then later, as you get way up in the higher degrees of the Scottish Rite and the York Rite, there's another oath that says you must shelter and hide and give aid to a brother, even if he has committed murder or treason. And it also says that if any brother of the order of the Royal Ark degree is running for political office, you must vote for that brother. You cannot vote for anyone else. And the oaths demand absolute obedience to the lodge and to the master of the lodge. And that is why they will not quote the oaths. And you see, when you're on a computer net, they can hide behind their computers. Nobody knows who these people are. They can hide behind their computers and lash out. And when they can't deal with the facts or will not deal with the facts, they make personal attacks. I just read a post that was sent to me a few minutes ago. Rather than deal with the facts that I had posted and argue a valid, intelligent argument, to present one's case logically and reasonably with facts and sources, the person raved about how many women and children I had killed in Vietnam. And I fought in Vietnam, folks. I killed a lot of men in Vietnam. I didn't kill any women and children, none whatsoever. And I sorely regret having killed anyone. And when I left Vietnam, I made an oath to myself that I would never kill another living thing as long as I lived, and I've stuck with that so far and hope to be able to stick to it until the day I die and way beyond. And there's a reason that people are like this, because people, for the most part, are mindless sheep. The Illuminati are absolutely correct. I have discovered this. It has been one of the greatest disappointments of my life to discover that most people, the people that I have been battling for, the people that I have laid my life down for you can be sure that when the New World Order comes into power, my life is forfeit for the work that I have done. It has been the greatest disappointment to find out that they are absolutely right about most of what they call the masses. Whenever you hear somebody use that term, they're usually one of them. Are nothing but cattle, sheep, mindless animals, steaks on the table and beasts of burden by choice and consent. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's true. It's because from the beginning people are taught to be stupid, taught not to think, not to challenge, taught not to ask questions. Why is it that we are told when we are young that we have to go to high school and then go to work for somebody? Why aren't we taught anything about money in high school? Why aren't we told that we don't have to go to work for somebody, that we can go out and begin a business of our own and not be dependent upon other people? Why aren't we taught to think properly, to question everything as we are supposed to do? What happened to Socrates? What happened to Aristotle? Where are they when we need them? Why is it that you think you have to marry the cheerleader and have 2.5 kids, buy a brand new Chevy, and mow the lawn every weekend? Who says these things have to be, and why do you eat it up? That's what I want to know. Why do you think that just because you belong to an organization you must defend it rather than question it, especially when you don't know anything about it? And I'm talking to all you stupid, absolutely empty-headed Freemasons out there who joined an organization you didn't know anything about because you were proselytized by a friend or a business acquaintance. And don't tell me you weren't, because that's the only way Freemasonry ever gets members. Nobody even knows it exists until somebody comes along and pats you on the shoulder and says, "John, we've been friends for 4 years. It's about time you join the lodge." Oh, and I know you all say you don't proselytize and you don't go out and recruit members or seek new members, and you are liars. I'll say it right to your face through this microphone, or if your nose was 2 inches from mine, I'll still say it. You are barefaced liars. If you didn't do that, you wouldn't have any members, and you damn well know it. For all you know, it could be an international organization for the importation and the sale of pot to all of our children. And many of you will stand up and rant and rave and say, "This guy is loony. We don't sell pot." How do you know? You haven't gone